美方有关言论极其荒谬，极不负责，严重违背基本事实，严重违背外交礼仪，严重侵犯中方政治尊严，是公开的政治挑衅。中方对此强烈不满，坚决反对。
What I will say is that it should come as no surprise, of course, that we have differences and disagreements with the PRC, and the president believes that diplomacy, including this recent trip undertaken by the secretary, is a responsible way to manage tensions, clear up misperceptions, avoid miscalculations, and all of this is in our interest to do that. That does not mean, of course, we will not be blunt and forthright about our differences. You all, I know, tuned in to the Secretary's press conference in Beijing at the conclusion of his trip, where he talked about a number of important issues and the progress that was made in a number of areas in conversations with senior PRC officials, and we look forward to continuing to engage on a number of issues as it relates to the complex relationship that we have with the PRC.
The president's comments last night likening Xi Jinping to a dictator and saying he had no idea about the balloon traversing the United States. Does this building agree with that assessment that he did not know about the balloon? And have there been any conversations between U.S. and Chinese officials in the wake of those comments to explain them? And are you concerned that this is going to set back the progress the Secretary said he made on his trip to Beijing?
So I will let the Department of Defense and Department of Justice and ODNI speak to any information that they have as it relates to the surveillance balloon program and any intelligence assessments there. I'm certainly not going to speak to that from here. And also, I don't have any specifics about any diplomatic engagements to read out. What I will say is that it should come as no surprise, of course, that we have differences and disagreements with the PRC, and the president believes that diplomacy, including this recent trip undertaken by the secretary, is a responsible way to manage tensions, clear up misperceptions, avoid miscalculations, and all of this is in our interest to do that. That does not mean, of course, we will not be blunt and forthright about our differences. You all, I know, tuned in to the secretary's press conference in Beijing at the conclusion of his trip, where he talked about a number of important issues and the progress that was made in a number of areas in conversations with senior PRC officials, and we look forward to continuing to engage on a number of issues as it relates to the complex relationship that we have with the PRC.
Have any U.S. officials been demarched by Beijing?
I don't have any specific diplomatic engagements to offer. Let me go to Olivia, then I will run. Go ahead.
Just to follow up on Jenny's question, because some lawmakers have called for more transparency into what we learned from and about the surveillance balloon. I know you just deferred to other agencies, but do you think that that would be constructive or detrimental to the relationship with China to reveal some more?
I'm just not going to parse or offer insights on a hypothetical, and the provision of additional information on this program would certainly come from elsewhere, and so I would refer to those agencies on that. Go ahead, Alex.
Just to clarify, the comments that, given what happened during the past 24 hours, the progress that Secretary had appeared to have made, do you think that has faded or wasted?
Absolutely not at all. We believe that engagement and dialogue and diplomacy are integral to a number of the issues that we think are important as it relates to our bilateral relationship with the PRC. And there are a number of areas addressing the climate crisis, getting home wrongfully detained American citizens, securing cooperation as it relates to the provision of fentanyl and fentanyl precursors, and defending the economic interests of U.S. workers and companies. Those things happen through dialogue and engagement. And it's also, as I noted in speaking to Jenny's question, it's something that the president also knows and believes is critically important to ensure that there are no miscalculations made and no misperceptions happening.
About the Secretary's comments that he made in Beijing on Russia and China, some of us have covered that because, based on your statements in this room. But we all also know that the Secretary has gone from suggesting that Chinese government might decide to provide weapons to Russia to calling Chinese officials in Beijing to be vigilant to ensure that Chinese companies are not doing so. I'm just wondering, I understand diplomacy is how you guys are making a living in this building, but if this rhetorical shift suggests that concerns that Chinese government might get involved into this war is evading.
I think the Secretary's comments speak for themselves, and I think we continue to be very clear-eyed and concerned about broadly any kind of support for Russia from any country or entity that could take the shape of the provision of lethal aid that could be used for further harm in Ukraine. And that's something that we're going to continue to be vigilant about and pay attention to.
But you don't generally believe that Chinese defense companies can go ahead and send weapons to Russia without the information or green light of Chinese government, do you?
Alex, I'm certainly not going to get into parse or get into the specifics of the Chinese system and how that works. The Secretary's comments were very clear in his press conference, and I think they speak for itself. Shannon, go ahead. I'll come back to you.
In President Biden's comments, Secretary Blinken said in an interview when he left China that the chapter on the spy balloon was closed. Do Biden's comments run counter to that assessment?
Not at all. As I said, just answering Jenny's question, that the president believes diplomacy, including the visit that was undertaken by the secretary, are a responsible way to manage tensions, clear up misinterpretations, and avoid miscalculations. The important thing to remember, and the secretary spoke about this a little bit in his press conference, is that it is important, and you've heard him say this before, about de-risking and not decoupling as it relates to our relationship with the PRC. And again, there are a number of issues at the nexus of our bilateral relationship with the PRC, whether it be addressing the climate crisis, whether it be the provision of fentanyl and fentanyl precursors, that we believe that we have an opportunity to cooperate with the PRC on to address these very important transnational issues. Additionally, I will note is that throughout a number of the bilateral engagements that the secretary has had in his time as secretary, a consistent theme continues to be that as it relates to the PRC, the international community expects the United States and the PRC to manage this relationship responsibly, and that's something that the secretary, the president, and this administration intends to do so.